because Tim's too lazy to get out of the bed, I'm going to be filming this video and stuff from up there. I've had such a knowledge of scales, I've decided to finally put it to use and teach people scales who aren't so good at playing piano and maybe just music in general for helpful things. So yeah, I'm going to make a whole series of this, and I'll go through each scale one by one in order, not necessarily by order which you get taught it, in order of the scales as they appear in their basic root notes without any sharps or flats in the scales. To keep it simple, of course, so that would be C for C major, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G Mixolydian, A minor and B Locrian. And I'm going to start obviously with C major because I'm not going to start throwing in and go, let's do a tritone scale. No, fine, you can hold it there. So, this is the first video of the series. It's going to be how to play the C major scale. I'm basically going to break it down to its simple factor. C major scale, as all scales, has 7 notes, 8 if you count the octave, but for this we'll say 8. Now, there's loads of different ways to remember a pattern of a scale. For example, you can do the standard tone-semitone pattern. For example, major is simply tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That's one way of remembering it. If you're not so clear about that, then you can think about it the intervals way. You know, standard interval, there's 12 intervals on it. In an octave, obviously there's the root note, which isn't an interval, but then you've got the minor second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, the brilliant tritone, perfect fifth, minor sixth, major seventh, major seventh, and then the octave. So that, I find, could be maybe easier. So I'm going to teach it using the interval way because it's a handy skill to learn. So simply for the C major scale, you're obviously going to start on C, which is right here. Doesn't matter which octave you do it in. Let's just go for middle C though to keep things simple. So, quite simply starts off with C, and you want to go to C. Obviously, that's the whole point of a scale, an octave. So, there's always 7 notes in these simple scales. So, C. So we're going to do by intervals. So the first one you want to do is to the major second, so to D, then to the major third, because it's built around triads of chords. For example, the C major chord is C, E, G, which is the root note, the major third, and the perfect fifth. Add the major second and the perfect fourth, which is D and F, into that. You've got the first 5 notes of the C major scale: C, D, E, F, G. So root note to the major second. I'll keep the minor second. Root note to the major second, to the major third, to the perfect fourth, to the perfect fifth. That's the first 5 notes of the major scale. Simple. From then on, it's major, isn't it? So it's to A, from G to A, which is the major sixth, to B, which is the major seventh, then to the octave, which is C. So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It's very simple to learn. If you want to do a tone-semitone pattern, it's simply tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Because everyone knows semitone is half a step, isn't it? Which is E to F or C to C sharp. But in terms of the major scale, the semitones come in on E to F and at the end from B to C. Because one key thing in all of these, if you're going by tone semitone, in all of these patterns for the 7 main scales on the keyboard or whatever instrument you play, they will always have the same number of semitones and tones. They'll just be in a different position in the 7 in the pattern, but there will always only be 2 semitones and 5 tones altogether to make up to 8. So going through it again with the intervals: major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, octave. Quite simple. That is basically the major scale in about as big of a, small as a nutshell as I can put it. It's the easiest scale. That's why it's the first video. Once we pass the 7 main, I'll branch out to do stuff like diminished and, you know, like stuff like more complex. Stuff like diminished scales and Phrygian dominant and so on. But for now, let's just keep it simple that was the major scale. Now, one more thing, that's not the only major scale, obviously. I mean, it would be pretty pointless if that was. There's major scales for every key, so there's pretty much 12 of each scale. 12, well, ones which have a key, stuff like chromatic, and that doesn't have a key, but ones which have a key, obviously there's 12 for each. So major scale, yeah, that's the C major scale. Then I could go into circle of fifths, but that's like a whole video on top of it, so I'm not going to blab on about the circle of fifths, but I'm just going to show you using that pattern. Let's just go for F sharp, for example. So let's just go F sharp to the major second, to the major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, octave. See, that's the F sharp major scale. See, if you apply that to any key, if you know that crucial, if you know that pattern, whichever way you want to say it, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, or root, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, octave, whichever way you want to look at it, that's the pattern you have to know for the major scale. As soon as you remember that, you can just shred on whatever instrument you want, down anything in a major scale, because that's it, isn't it? What else can I say? It's a simple scale, everyone knows it. Laters.